Bienvenue. I almost forget what it is like to stream, you know? I'm so in touch with nature nowadays. And good food, you know? That's what life is about. Look, guys, I don't know what to tell you. I don't like talking about this a lot. But the fact of the matter is that I am French, okay? And after coming back from Paris, I'm in touch with I'm in touch with myself, and I've been touching myself all week in beautiful Paris. Anyway, chat, hello, welcome back. Because I've been gone. I've been gone for, I think, the longest amount of time, if you ignore my one sponsored stream, in a long time, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, mods, OG viewers. This is like one of the longest breaks that we've ever done. It was about 8 days, Sunday to Monday, and I have been gone ever since. Just totally out, disappeared without really explaining much. I think I vaguely said in a stream or two that I would be in Paris, but I didn't really explain for how long or why. I just kind of disappeared. And so I made you guys a little PowerPoint to go over what I have been up to and where I have been. Okay, the short answer is Paris, but look, I have some fun stories from Paris. So, you know, you can hang. Fun story time. Story time with Ludwig. Fun story time. I went to Paris. Paris, France. My motherland, okay? If you do not know, I don't talk about this a lot. I'm not a guy who likes bringing up his personal life. I just like bringing content to you guys. I'm actually French. It's true. I know I perhaps don't come across very French sometimes. Almost all my family lives in France. I'm fluent in French. I would say at like a professor level. And it's also the first time I went back to France in about 5 years. And even longer since I was in Paris. Probably like 8 years since I was last in Paris. If you don't know, I'm literally the only person in my family born in America. I was always the American of the family. Anyway, I'm going to Paris. Big question, why? Is it just me taking a vacation to enjoy life after running a banger event like World's Greatest Gamer? Kind of. I would love if that were the case, but I have a problem that many of you suffer from, like most Americans. We are overly addicted to work. I don't know if it's through guilt or conditioning or cultural oppression, but Americans are addicted to work. American workers left a record number of vacation days on the table last year, 786 million days, up 9% from 2017. And it's a little different for me because I don't get paid vacation or vacation days, but I also get to make my own days. I could take more vacation, if anything. But there's an issue to me where it's almost harder to take your vacation because then you come back, you're swamped with work. You don't even feel relaxed because usually if you travel on vacation, the traveling weighs you down and you feel like you need another vacation for your traveling, but you don't get that vacation. You have to go right back to work. And then when you go back to work, you have more work than you had before you left, and it's very stressful. And so I think this results in a lot of people not taking days off and not taking vacation. And so what I do to rationalize days off and hanging out with my family, specifically my sister and my cousin who live in Paris, is that I do like vacation work. I don't know if a good word for it. Workcation, perhaps. And so my excuse for the vacation was this thing that I announced during PogChamps 5.
Greatest chess Clash universe crossover. You didn't even know it was happening, but you've heard of it. You heard of Clash. You've heard of chess. And they are making a brand new event with Supercell.
If it sounds like I have no idea what I'm talking about, it's because I don't. But they said they would fly me to Paris on a business class flight and pay me to do the event. And I was like, fuck yeah. And that is the reason why I went to Paris when I did. 1, get the bag doing a sponsor. And then 2, hang out with my sister and cousin while I was there. And then usually what we do as the Yard, my podcast, is anytime we have some travel, and it's not only always because of me. Sometimes we went to England for different reasons. We did the one in Italy, the one in Australia. We'll oftentimes coincide travel with a Yard episode. So I was like, hey guys, I have to go to Paris for work. You guys, okay, can come with me and do the Yard podcast, and then we hang out in gay Paris, as Slime likes to call it, together. And this is Aiden in Paris, looking miserable because it was 95 degrees with the Eiffel Tower in the background, which would have been a fire pick had he made a slightly better face. And then this is Slime and Nick, who got a tattoo of the Yard there on their legs. They got a matching tattoo. They asked me if I wanted to do it. I said, no, I'm okay. I don't like getting tattooed. It hurts. So anyway, that was it. This was the game plan. Hang out with family, do this event, do the Yard. Bing, bang, boom. Those are my goals going to Paris. And the moment we land in Paris, again, it's been about 4 or 5 years since I've been there. I quickly remember some of the stereotypes that are partially true when it comes to Paris. Specifically, well, I guess I'll just show it here. The French stereotype starter pack. So there were basically 2 groups going to Paris. Group 1 was me, Slime, and Yan. And we traveled separately. We are all on the same plane together. Nick and Aiden traveled on a different plane. But it's me, Slime, and Yan. Yan is producing the event. Slime, of course, coming to do the podcast. We instantly run into every fucking stereotype imaginable. We get off the plane, right? And the plane was an easy plane ride. I got a business class plane ride from Supercell. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. First thing I do when I get off the plane, I realize how bad my French is. I talk about how I am French, and I do understand French very well, and I communicate French very well. Like, I'm able to communicate my ideas very efficiently. Not correct grammatically, but I speak, and I like to say, like a 6-year-old. Like, if you talk to a 6-year-old, you kind of get what they're getting at. My tummy hurt. I do the same shit. J'ai faim. Est-ce qu'on peut manger maintenant? And I realized just how rusty my French was because when I landed on the plane, we were in line to get a taxi. And I talked to the guy in line. He's this like French guy who works at the airport and he's like directing traffic. And he looks fed up with his job because it's hot as shit outside and he's standing outside. And I go, s'il vous plaît, où est le salle de bain? Excuse me, where's the bathroom? Simple, right? I thought it was the first French person I talked to. Literally the first. Instantly, bro goes, what are you trying to do? Take a shower? And laughs at me. Because if you don't know, they don't call the bathroom the toilet. There are different things. The bathroom is for showering. The toilet is for toileting and shitting and farting. In America, you say, can I go to the bathroom? That's all inclusive. In France, however, you have to say, excuse me, where is the toilet? Because they have different rooms. So I was like, already, fuck this damn country. I literally got May-eyed. I'm 28 years old. And I had to be like, sorry, where's the toilet? And he's like, it is over there. And I was like, great. Go to the bathroom, come back just in the nick of time. Our taxi's here. We get in the taxi, and you might notice Slime's head is above this little smelly French man. Because the first thing Slime does in the taxi, like a cartoon character, he does this. He goes, ugh. He makes a big stink of how it smells terrible. And he assumed it was himself. And this is where I have to like shyly lean over to Slime and I have to be like, that's the cab driver. Because the cab driver isn't wearing deodorant. He's just not. There's not a lot of deodorant in France, in Paris specifically. And there's not a lot of AC, and there's a whole lot of sweating. So our taxi driver smelled like shit. We also ran into a couple other, so we do the taxi ride. Taxi takes an hour-ish to get to the center of Paris, and I meet with my sister. If you guys don't know, my sister is much more French than I am. She was actually born in France. She speaks a lot better than me. She's also been living in France for the past few months. And I haven't seen her a little bit, so I was excited to see her. And instantly, the first thing I notice when she is there is that she has picked up a very French habit. She now smokes cigarettes. It has been 6 months. It reminds me of that meme, that used to be popular on TikTok. And it'd be like 1 week being in Paris. And then it was like 1 month being in Paris. And then it was like, croissant, that meme. Literally 6 months in the country, she instantly started smoking. Also, cigarette packs in France are very weird because they all have these adverts on them that are like smoking will kill you. And then it shows a picture of like lungs or like a dead person or like a fucked up eyeball. But the funniest one is they show a picture of a baby that looks like he's huffing that good shit, not in a bad way. Like this picture alone doesn't really give me the idea that you shouldn't smoke. It goes kind of hard in a weird way. The baby's kind of lit. After we land, we hang out for a bit. And my sister takes me, Yan, and Slime to a workout class. Now, my sister, she's been on the stream before. There's 2 things you should know about her. 1, after moving to Paris, she loves drinking wine and smoking. 2, she's also, ironically, the fittest person I know. She is in the best shape of any person I know. And I saw that firsthand because she took us to a workout class. Specifically, she took us to Barry's, which is actually an LA thing, ironically, but they have something in Paris. This is the exact room. I've never done a workout class before, but it is fucking insane. You walk in and there's this French dude who's speaking like Fringlish, half French, half English. And he's listening to what I can only describe as a DJ version of like Inception music. It's like this. And so he would have us get on the treadmill and he'd be like, all right, everybody, I want you to run at your maximum speed. And I want you to sprint for 2 minutes straight. And I do not want you to quit. You have it in you. You can fight. Allons-y. Encore maintenant. And let me tell you, I've never done a workout class like that before. It fucking rules. When the beat drops, I don't know how this guy times it every time, but it got lit. And I've never worked out so hard in my life. I pushed myself to the max. I was running 17 kilometers on the treadmill, which is very fast for me. And I say my sister's very in shape because I look over, she's running 20 kilometers it's an hour, right? 20 miles an hour? Yeah, 20 kilometers an hour, which I thought was insane, blowing me out the water. But I finished a workout. It was actually kind of hype. Afterwards, I hit the showers, which was a bunch of French people who are all naked. And then we go to dinner. This is our first night. And Nick and Aiden finally landed. I don't have a picture of me in the shower, obviously, guys. And we have a dinner with everyone. And it was a beautiful dinner. It had this tasting course. I think it's called Nelu, if anyone's in Paris and wants to try it out. The only issue I had is the room had no AC, so it was kind of hot. But yeah, they brought us through a bunch of tasting courses. And I really only have one issue on the dinner. Is fucking slime. Okay? Because we go to this dinner, great tasting course. There's Yan, there's my sister. It's the only picture I took. Sorry, I'm not a guy who takes pictures of all his meals. But during the dinner, Slime proudly proclaims, I don't even know where it came from, but he goes, I know Dubbin's internet passwords. Proceeds to tell everybody at the dinner, a room full of like 8 people who I do love, but don't necessarily want to know my passwords. Not one, but every single password he knows of mine. This is like 4 different passwords he rattles off. And I'm like, what is going on? So anyway, if I start having all the money drained from my account, I'm going to have to do a Knives Out style island adventure with everybody at that dinner table to divulge who was stealing all my money. And that was our day 0. That was our landing. And then that brings us to the first real day in Paris. And this is when I came to the conclusion, Paris blows. When I go to France, I don't usually go to Paris. I usually go to the south of France where my family lives. This is places like Nice, Montpellier. I don't really go to Paris. However, since my sister moved to Paris and my cousin moved to Paris, it felt okay to hang out there where I normally never do. Again, this is like, I think the second time in my life I've ever been to Paris. It fucking sucks. I do not like it. And I like France. It sucks for a lot of reasons. 1, there's no AC. Like, there's actually no AC. Some buildings have it. Like, mostly Western businesses, like I guess specifically American businesses, like a Starbucks has it. But even their AC is kind of like by somebody with a slightly cold mouth. It's never American-style AC. And I'll agree, American-style AC goes too far. American-style AC, you walk into a Target, it's like 62 degrees. And it's like, why is this a thing in the middle of the Phoenix desert? We don't need to be this comfortable all the time. However, France, I would argue, or specifically Paris, is too much on the polar end. Why else does Paris suck? Because there are so many tourists, there are so many tourist traps. And it is kind of hard to differentiate what is a tourist trap and what is a cool hip spot. This is an issue with all major cities, which is fair, but it's why I don't like Paris as opposed to some of the other cities that are smaller in the south. The third problem with Paris, they're not very nice to people who don't speak French. Now, I will say I had a polar opposite experience of this. I don't speak French very well. I've already admitted this. However, the level I speak French at was good enough that people were incredibly nice to me. Like, they would talk to me almost as if... You ever see that Japanese show on Netflix called Old Enough? Where it's like this little 5-year-old kid and he has to go to like the fish market and pick up a fish and go home. And then the person at the fish market are like, oh my God, this is so cute. That's how people treated me, a 28-year-old man. Because I spoke at that level, I walked into a store to buy like towels, but I didn't really know the word for towels or something. So I was like, excuse-moi, est-ce que vous avez des drapeaux? And they were like, what? And I was like, j'ai pas de drapeaux parce que quand je suis mouillé, je veux que je become sec. And they'd be like, oh, it is so sweet how you speak. We do not have that, but wow, it is okay. Perhaps this could work for you. And in reality, I literally said, hey, can I have a flag to wipe myself off so I can become dry? Slime, on the other hand, did not have the same experience. And Slime specifically told this story on the podcast about how he wanted to get new shoes. So he went to this shoe store to get some New Balances. And he walks in and instantly they're dicks to him. Like frame one, they're like rolling their eyes in front of his face. And he just picks up a pair of shoes and he's like, 11? Can I try it on? And they give him lip off rip. And they speak English way better than he speaks French. They're like, what is it that you want? What is 11? And he's like, for the size. And he's like, we do not have 11 here. They're like making him on the spot do like, okay, what is 11 shoe size in Europe? Okay, can I have like a 44? Is 44 good? Okay. Same day he goes to the pharmacy, right? Okay, maybe this person's just a little upset because they have to deal with an American and that's not the language they speak and they're not that happy, whatever. Same day he goes to a pharmacy and he needed like shampoo or something. Right? He just needs something at this pharmacy. And pharmacies are everywhere. They're littered everywhere. You'll see this green plus sign. And he walks in and he puts this thing on the table and they ring it up and they're like, okay, it is $10. And then Slime like pulls out his card and he's like, And the guy who runs the pharmacy is like, okay. Pulls out like a little keypad, mistypes $18. They scam Slime. They charge him $18 for a $10 item. Just straight the fuck up. And I went to the pharmacy. Nobody did this to me. They would all tell me the price. And if I would always pull up my iPhone because I use tap to pay. And I'd be like, tap. Because they just call it tap as well. And they'd be like, bien sûr. Well, bien sûr qu'on a tap. But for Slime, they were like $18. They gave him the American tax. Yeah, I know. I realize I said shampoo, but he doesn't even have fucking hair. But I forget the thing that he was buying. It was like sunscreen or a razor or something. I forget. So I fully believe that Paris is not a good place in general for tourists. And then my final issue with Paris is that they have this weird issue where everything is too close for a drive. And if you were to drive 1.5 miles, it'll take you like 30 minutes. But it's also a little too far to walk. It was this weird in-between that just made it kind of miserable to travel. And everything was this travel distance. And it's worth noting at this point, all these complaints that I'm levying, I will admit that you should take them with a grain of salt. Because while I was in Paris, these are the exact days I was there was a heat wave. I think there was a heat wave like all over the world, honestly. But it was fucking hot. It was 93 degrees Fahrenheit. It was way too hot to walk around. The sun was just beaming on us all day. It kind of sucked. So anyway, this is the general overview. But let's get into the specifics of what we were doing there. So this was like the first real day there. Day one, Thursday, was sponsor day. And on the sponsor day, we woke up, we got like a breakfast. And for the first time in like a year, I went rock climbing. What I didn't realize, because I haven't used a scale in 6 months, my ass has gotten fatter. My return to rock climbing was not great. I'm 190 pounds. I found out because I weighed myself the moment I got home because I could not pull myself up a wall. Holy shit, it was hard. I don't think it's, I mean, I think I've gained some muscle as well, which is what I tell myself to cope. But climbing is tough. But after the climbing, I had to do my sponsor. And what I didn't realize until the day of, you guys might have saw an Instagram story of mine, and it was like, hey, here in Gay Paris, not going to stream for a few days. See you guys soon. And then that same day I went live. Yeah, I didn't even realize I was streaming the event. I didn't realize. This is my bad. I should have known. But the whole time I had been coined as the host of the event, that I thought I was hosting it on another channel. I didn't realize I was also streaming it on my channel. I didn't fucking know. They were just like, hey, do you want to go to Paris and host this event? I was like, yep. And I didn't ask another question until I got there. And this was the actual sponsor stream, if you guys watched it. Hello, everybody who's watching this and confused at what it is. I'm here to explain it. My name is Ludwig. Welcome to Chess Clash. Now, the event went great. I had a lot of fun doing it. The production team was nice. Shout out to Supercell for inviting me out and chess.com. The idea was we had a chess expert, Danny, and we had a Clash expert, Eric, and I was somehow the glue. Here's the issue. I should not have been the glue. Yeah, I did not know enough about Clash, and I'm not nearly good enough at chess. So my inclusion in it, although, hey, I was happy with it, didn't make that much sense. Still fun. We still had pretty good viewership. Supercell was happy with it. And I got a free trip with a fucking business class flight to France. So for me, that shit was worth it. However, it went a little bit late. On my drive back, if you guys don't know, this was done on a Thursday. And we had a fantasy football draft that same day, which was also the first day of the National Football League. And I planned to do it after I got home. What happened, though, incidentally, is that I ended up in the Uber because everything ran a little bit late. So I did my draft while in the Uber. And I planned to really focus in the Uber and like get all my picks in and you know, take time and do a little research. That was my whole game plan. I get in the Uber and instantly I start, you know, speaking French to tell, you know, the guy like, hey, where I'm at. And he starts asking questions. And he can tell that one, I speak French, and two, I'm from America, which is a rare thing, and he wants to talk about it. So he starts talking in earnest. And we also did this at a production studio that apparently a lot of bigwig Hollywood people go to. So he was really into that. And when I told him I was a YouTuber, game over. I had signed, sealed, and killed my fantasy dreams. I'm just going to show you guys my fantasy team. For 99% of you, you won't understand this. For the 1% of NFL viewers, this is the team that I ended up with. Now, even if you don't understand a lick about football, you can see that there are 5 people on the team who have a big red thing because they are suspended or out or on the injured reserve list or PUP R. I don't even know what the fuck that one means. Can't be good, though. So I have a dog shit fantasy team. And from midnight to 2 a.m., right after the fantasy draft, I did back-to-back-to-back-to-back business calls. And that was my Thursday. That was the sponsor day. That was my work day. And then we enter what I would argue was the best day of the trip. By far the dopest day of the trip, which was Friday. We wake up early because our game plan is to do the Yard podcast. And we're not just planning to do the Yard podcast anywhere. We're planning to do the Yard podcast at the Champ de Mars, which, if you guys do not know, is the park that is directly in front of the Eiffel Tower. And we're there at 8 a.m. and we find this spot and it's somewhat close, but there's like this fence around and there's a bunch of trash everywhere. We set up some of our gear and instantly we get kicked out. And like I try to spin this fucking weave of lies where I'm like, oh, this is a school project. Can we stay? And it doesn't really work and they kick us out. So we move. We find a new location. New location works out great. It was actually probably like right around here. It was pretty far from the Eiffel Tower. It had a nice setup. And the whole entire week, one of my favorite things to do when I travel, specifically with Aiden, is harass him. I don't know why. I think it's because Aiden takes things very earnestly. He'll always reply to it. He'll always give you the time of day. He'll never shrug you off. And so we start walking back. And out of nowhere, I do this to him. I go, comme tu me fais chier tous les jours comme ça. Mais t'es trop pénible. And I'm yelling. in the streets of Paris. Things my mother would yell at me when I was a kid, which basically translate to, you're being such a pain in the ass. You always do this. How can you always do this? You're pissing me off, which is literally how mothers scold their children. But I would yell it. And Aiden would have no idea what I'm saying. And I would do this about every 3 to 4 hours just to keep him on his toes, just to keep him honest. I think he needs this. We do the yard podcast. It went okay. The heat came out, or the sun came out, the source of all our heat, and it fried our equipment a bit. So we had to like re-roll a couple times. Outside of that, though, the view was insane. You guys should watch a podcast because the view for it was fucking crazy. But that's, when we're done with that, the last piece of work that I had to do. I was after that, I was done. I was basically, able to spend the next 48 hours doing whatever the hell I wanted, which started off, if you saw my Instagram, with a little bit of shopping. Now, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this, you should follow me on Instagram if you care about what I'm doing when I am not live. Because I was a madman on Instagram all week. I was going crazy. It was the first time I'd ever really posted on Instagram outside of like me doing an event and then taking a picture and then posting like a dumb caption. I was just like posting my day to day, which included going shopping and finding these Balenciaga heel Crocs that were $1,000. I was going to buy them, and then I realized that I have a partnership with Crocs. So the first thing that I did is I DM'd the Crocs people, and I said, please give me these Crocs, please, God, please. And I'm hoping they give them to me. I did not buy them. Anyway, we went shopping, and what I realized on that Friday, Paris was buzzing. There were streets shut down. Shit was going crazy. And the reason why is because it was the French World Cup. I had no idea. Coincidentally, the Rugby World Cup was happening. Not only right then, but it happening in Paris. Like at the Stadium of France right outside of Paris. And like a shit ton of countries are in it. A shit ton. Not America. I did look this up. I was a little embarrassed for us. Anyway, the Rugby World Cup's happening. And so the streets of Paris were buzzing. Every sports bar was packed out the ass. They had TV set up. There were people like out in the streets getting wild. And we went out to eat some burger, and we couldn't find a seat anywhere. This is us out to eat burger. This is me, my sister, and my cousin. We couldn't find seats anywhere, which was kind of disappointing because I thought it would have been a cool experience to watch the Rugby World Cup in a street full of Parisians on the first match of the Rugby World Cup, which was Paris against France. If they were to beat New Zealand, that'd be very impressive. And that's when I have to tell you guys about Chris the waiter. Chris the waiter is my goat. We happened to stumble upon this random French bar that was like pretty busy, but the only one that had an open enough bar on the inside to get a drink. So we walk up to the bar to get a drink inside, but where we really wanted to sit was outside, with all the people in front of the TV and watch the big game. And as I'm getting ordered, Chris, who's the bartender there, he's like, Ludwig, you're a streamer, right? And I was like, yes, it is true. I am a streamer. He goes, dude, I love the streams. And I was like, cool. He's like, hey man, first round's on me. I was like, what the hell? He's like, yeah, no worries, dude. He goes back, he gets beers, and he comes back, and I think he might have looked something up. I'm not exactly sure. But he comes back with our drinks, and he's like, now I remember. You switched to YouTube, but I used to love watching your Amazon streams. And I was like, yes! I do that. I do spend tens of thousands of dollars on Amazon.com, and I have to unbox everything, and it's a pain in Nick Yingling's ass. He's like, yep. And then he hooked us up with a fucking seat for the game. Not only did he hook us up with a table with a free round of drinks, but he also gave these fun little scarves that apparently you wear if you root for France, and these hats. And also he gave us roller markers to put flags on our face for the country. And this is where I have to point out that although we do have 6 total flags on our cheeks, none of these flags are the French flag. We went 0 for 6 on getting the French flag correctly. Literally not one of them are the actual French flag. I don't know how the fuck we went 0 for 6, but it happened. I have to admit, this is my American side coming out. But doesn't fucking matter, because guess who came out on top? except for the French. The French beat New Zealand. The streets of Paris got fucking lit. And so that was the French popping off. That was the Rugby World Cup. And then at night, Yan had wanted to go to like see a DJ. And I don't give a shit about like going to like some bar to see a DJ. I'm not really a DJ guy. Until Yan said a DJ had visited from Japan. And all of a sudden my interest was piqued. I was just curious about who this DJ from Japan was. It sounded kind of cool. I'm not a weeb. I just like some Japanese music, so I thought I might like the DJ. So we show up right after the Rugby World Cup. The moment we get there, Yan comes up and he's like, oh, the Japanese DJs are done. I was like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, they're done. It's only French DJs now. I was like, dude, what the fuck? I traveled all the way out here. By all the way out here, I mean like a 10-minute bike ride for this. So I got a drink. I was just like chilling in the back. I was like this to this French DJ. He's like, putz. Like whatever, baited. And right as I'm about to leave, I see the DJ. I see her leave because Yan points her out. He's like, that was the DJ. She was great. She was the best one. I see her walk out. And I don't know what spurred this in me, but I went up to her and I was like, great set. Total lie. I didn't see it at all. I don't even, she might have sucked. I only know she was good by proxy of Yan. I said, great set. Have a good night. And she turns around and she goes, oh, I'm not done. I'm going to be back on in like 30 minutes. And I was like, let's fucking go. So I got to see DJ Aiko. Walk with me. So this is me and Yan at the front going crazy. We're having a good time. And we were being a little degenerate. I won't lie. Right next to the DJs, they had a huge, like a Halloween-sized bowl full of beer. There was like 30 beers in it. And I looked at it and the DJs were not drinking it. And so and Yan's right next to it and he has such long arms. And I was like, Yan, what if we have one? I've paid for so many overpriced shots of alcohol. What if we have one beer here? I didn't steal a beer. I'm not saying this. Yan stole the beer. Not a narc, but whoa, I drank the beer. That's what you guys don't get. I didn't do anything wrong. And that was our Friday, which was probably the best night of the entire week, was getting to see the Rugby World Cup and feeling the energy of a city when even the Rugby World Cup's going on, which is obviously smaller than like the actual World Cup, but still, because it was happening in Paris, like the city felt so alive. Everybody was out on the streets. And although I talk a lot of shit on Paris, it is dope how lively the night scene is and how active it is at all hours. Like at midnight or 1 a.m. walking on the street, you will see a bunch of like bars or cafes filled with people, and it feels very communal as opposed to like everyone being behind closed doors in clubs or whatever. Like it was very outdoor. In conclusion, that was kind of my last day in Paris. I woke up the next day. I went on a quick jog. I've been trying to run every day. Paris, kind of fun to visit. I didn't even touch any of the historical stuff of Paris. Like the outside of going to the Eiffel Tower, I didn't go to like any of the museums, the Louvre, the other like Impressionist museum. I didn't go to the catacombs. I didn't go to any of the tours. I didn't do any of that shit. All I did is I fucking showed up. I ate way better food than I eat on a day-to-day basis here. I got super flattered by everybody on how poorly I spoke French, but they were down for it. Would I go back? Yeah, to visit my family. Outside of that, not really worth it. Not something I would go a second time if they didn't leave.